What's going on, Florida State fans? We're getting ready to talk some transfer portal news. Is he or is he not going into the portal? And that would be Florida State's Patrick Payton.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into another episode of Locked On Seminoles. My name is Brian Smith, and I am your host. Thank you very much for making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the awesome Locked On Network, your team every day, and you can get your podcasts right here on YouTube. You can get them wherever you get them for free, but please subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and share this podcast and comment. Feel free to comment in the chat, bring up any kind of questions you have. But the focal point today, just want to go over what little I have, and this is evolving. Patrick Payton allegedly was upset with the battles in Florida State's collective. Reportedly numbers around $1 million. I don't know how many years, if there were any specifics. You know, this isn't like Adam Schefter announcing a contract for a wide receiver for the Bills, and it's for this year, and it's got bonuses. All this stuff is behind the scenes, and it's not public. So it makes it more interesting, but also more frustrating. If you take nothing else from this podcast, understand what I'm trying to do here. Payton has gotten rid of the tweet about maybe going into the portal, blah, blah, blah. I'll check it again here in a few minutes to see if there's any other update. But Patrick Payton is a very, very good player. And Florida State losing Jared Verse, yeah, that's the other thing if you want to take away. Losing Payton would really crush your opportunities next year. You can't lose your two best pass rushers. You can't. As it stands, he's a redshirt sophomore now, so he technically has 2 more years. I would assume Payton would leave after next season being the main guy, no matter what school he's at, preferably at Florida State for Nole fans. But again, really good player. 13.5 tackles for loss this year, 42 tackles overall, and he had 6 sacks. And he's battling to get to the quarterback with Jared Verse, with Fisk, etc., Joshua Farmer, a lot of really good football players. So here's what I know, and I'm going to pull up the chat here in just a sec. Here's what I know. If anybody wants to comment, feel free. There are several different schools in this same situation. I spoke to somebody today, and by the way, I'm in a hotel on the road getting ready for state championships in Alabama and in Georgia. There's nothing you can do when you have X amount of dollars to satisfy everybody. This is, in a lot of ways, like NFL free agency. I hate using that frame to kind of paint this picture, but I don't know what else to say. If you have X number of dollars and the players want more than that, chances are somebody's going to leave. I don't know if that's going to be Payton, but still, it's not a good situation. So to that end, just because I just started the show, and by the way, Bless Harris has just announced he's going into the portal, the backup offensive lineman. Good dude. I had him on my show once. Really like him a lot. Wish him the best wherever he goes. But Patrick Payton pulled down the tweet, and now, I mean, he doesn't have anything all that exciting going on here. I mean, it's interesting because will Payton end up a Nole next year if they can't come to some kind of, shall we say, agreement, if you will? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't see anything of note. I'm looking around for more news on him as we go, because right before the show, after I'd set up the live stream, sure enough, soon as I did, and there, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's deleted his tweet. Even Bud Elliott just talked about it, a buddy of mine. I don't know what to say, because by the time this show's over, something else may have happened. I mean, they could be negotiating right now. Again, this isn't like, here's the cool thing about the NFL. It's very segmented and rigid in a way that usually those words are bad, but you need to have some consistency to know when you're allowed to be a free agent, tampering and all that stuff. College football, it's just herky-jerky. You don't get to know which collective has what. There is no salary cap per se. Some teams just have more than others, and then they have different ideas on which positions, just like the NFL in that regard. who should get more money. But allegedly, he wanted around $1 million, according to what one person said on Twitter. I forget who it was, but I'm like, I would like $1 million too. But let me be very clear. Again, as a buddy of mine was telling me earlier today, he goes, great quote. He goes, unless you are throwing the football, you're not sniffing $1 million in the portal as a D-end receiver in there. It is flat out a quarterback, and he's right. You know, the only way I could see something like that, like Phil Knight, it wouldn't make any difference. The guy at Oregon that runs Nike and all that, Oregon grad, big booster, he could do that, but it sets a trend too. Phil's not dumb. Is that the best way to do business? Is it? Probably not. So that's something else. Yo, what's going on, Mike? It's really wild to me that he would put something up and post it. We tell these kids all the time at camps, at practices, I don't give a crap what it is you do or somebody else did to you or anybody else. Don't hit send. I know everybody in this chat has heard that, and I know everybody in this chat has been around other people who have talked about it. Don't hit send. Don't do it, bro. Don't do it. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up because it drives me nuts that we don't have more consistency with some of these kids that should know better. Even if he's mad, even if he's not, you just can't do that, man. You just can't do that. And it's really frustrating because he makes it tough on himself. He's going to bring extra attention to Florida State in a bad way. Although, again, it's not intended. It's going to be perceived that way because when it's 50-50, people go negative, like 9 out of 10 times. That's the way it is. So here's something else that I just wanted. This is the only positive for this, for me, that I want to bring up. And anybody can comment however they like on this. This isn't going to be a Florida State issue. And we're talking about Patrick Payton here. But we're talking about something else that's really, really important. What about, you got to segregate your money for this position, that, how's your depth chart? Who do you expect to lose? This guy's been banged up a lot. He's good, but will he be healthy? It's complex. Where do you spend your NIL? Every team is different on how they run their offense. Let's use like Norvell's obviously a very good play caller. He's not going to spend his money the same way that, say, Jim Harbaugh would at Michigan. He's more run-based. Not that Norvell doesn't like to run the ball, but he throws it more than Harbaugh does. How they run their defense, the scheme, everything they do. So he's going to allocate the funds differently. But when you have an unexpected case, like let's say he had, whether it's Patrick or somebody else that they figured would be back in 24, then you got to think of, okay, we had all this figured out, but now not only we might lose him, he wants a lot. If we keep him, it's going to pull from other guys. There's no way around it. There's X amount of money you can spend. And the Battle's End's always trying to get more money in their collective, and that's cool. But this is not easy. So what's the problem? It's the amount of money. R.A. Nixon says, damn, just pay. What's the problem? It's not that easy. You got to make sure not only is he being taken care of, if you pay him, what's the standard set? And again, I don't know the specific numbers. It was hinted that it's around $1 million. Well, that brings up several questions. Number one, all at once, at the end of his senior year, installments, is it over 2 years? Does he have to get it as a senior and fifth year? He redshirted, so he could play a fifth year. What's the parameter? I have no idea. So just paying him is not that simple. It's like when you go buy a car, you don't just say, I'm going to buy it, and then you drive off. There's a lot of paperwork involved. Same deal here. All right, what's Mike got to say? That social media is wild and people don't listen. You are 100%. I've sit down in front of elite programs all over the country, talk to kids at Under Armour, Elite 11, talk to guys in the NFL about it. It's insane. It's insane. Jefferson, the receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, he was down at Under Armour for the Future 50 event at IMG earlier this year, and I talked to him, and he said flat out, he's like, tell kids don't go because of NIL somewhere. Go somewhere you're going to get developed. And he was freaking adamant. He repeated it and repeated it and repeated it and repeated it. Develop, develop, develop. Kids ain't listening because they got too many idiots around them. There are handlers that want money now that's not deserved to them that try to take advantage of kids. That's the first problem in high school. But Patrick's third year in college. And while he deserves some money, and I have no idea what his situation is, he's got to be careful every single time he looks at that send button. Is this going to haunt me? I don't know. Yeah, maybe it won't, but I don't think it's a very good look for him or Florida State right now. So we'll see how that goes. Ty Fox just posts money signs. Yeah. What are we doing about quarterback for next year? There's all kinds of situations. I was going to get to that. This is something I want to talk about every day, whether it's in the title for the post or whatever. Well, this is simple, man. There's no way around it. Florida State, in my opinion, this is 100% Brian Smith. If Florida State does not get a transfer portal quarterback, this is 7-5, 8-4 team next year, Rodemaker. That's my opinion. I don't think him or Glenn are ready. If they take a massive step forward and prove me wrong, I'll be sitting right here eating crow, happy to do so. That's it. Right now, everybody and their brother wants Cam Ward. Fantastic. Only one school is going to get him. From what I'm hearing about the NIL, I don't think it's going to be Florida State. Oregon, Auburn, they have money out the yin-yang. Miami, I would be very surprised if he ended up at Florida State. He's probably the best guy in the portal, but we'll see. DJU is the other guy Connor mentioned, and I'm not sure why. I don't like that fit, but he's been rumored. I don't know who else. Keep in mind, this is day 3 at the portal. It's a little early. Yeah, Cam Ward to FSU, right. When I see it, I'll believe it. But you never know. I mean, Omics Supreme says Cam Ward to FSU. I don't know if that's going to happen. Great question here. Tori Sims, are all the players playing in the bowl game? I would imagine a bunch are not. Number one, opt-outs for the NFL. Number two, you have a situation where some guys are going to go to the portal, like Bless Harris just announced, in case you missed it. He's going to the portal. And three, I've heard some kids are pretty ticked off about the situation with not going to the playoff, and they're going to boycott for that. That's a rumor going around. I have no idea what the validity of that is, but it's something to kind of take into account. So please keep that in mind. Also, please keep something else in mind, and that would be the Jase case. Jase Medical. I know that we come into sports and escape from some of this stuff that we have in everyday life, but we can talk a little bit about that in preparing for real life too. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. It's pretty scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if, like my mom or somebody was in a bad situation and they didn't have an opportunity to have the stuff they needed for them, life-saving medication like that they really needed. Thankfully for the Jase Medical, they have something that might be able to help you. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics for skin ailment, for an allergy, etc., that you can use. So visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to prepare for today. Go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. All right. Again, just to reiterate, I will be shocked if there aren't a lot of opt-outs. Florida State has a lot of NFL-ready guys. They have a lot of seniors. Georgia's going to be in the same situation. And if you take nothing else from this question, other than this, every year for the rest of your life, bowl games are like glorified spring practices. That's it. Unless you're in the Final Four or whatever, or the 12-team playoff, glorified practice. Opt-outs will be insane from now on. Unless there's some kind of special money pool that's not going to happen, that the advertisers are going to get these kids to pay, and they're not going to do it. Why are they going to play? They want to save themselves if they're thinking about the portal, so they're not going to risk injury. And then there's the guys that are going to the NFL. The kids that need the reps to get better to get there are going to play. It's pretty cut and dry. So it is what it is. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. Insane Mob. Florida State wins 10 games next year. I'm curious why you say that, because I'm not real sure about quarterback. If you think you got that much confidence in Tate Rodemaker, you jump on that train. I'm not with you. Finn, Olmec Supreme, I don't know what he's doing. Finn played at Toledo. For those you don't know, he's pretty darn good. He just hasn't played Power 5, so who knows? Daquan Finn, yeah, he's a good player. I don't know where he's going. Well, this is a good question. Von Myers Jr. DJ keeps getting thrown out there for Florida State. I don't know about him. Is he up or down? Yeah, like I'm the same way. I would rather pass, but I don't know what the situation is there. Not much. He'll run a little bit, but I just don't think he's the fit that Florida State needs. They need a more mobile quarterback than him, in my opinion. Corey Hall, interesting take. We are going to have to take DJ and develop him. I love our quarterback coach, and I think he can do one thing. He can do it. One thing about it, he will keep on the zone read. Yeah, DJ's not terrible at it. He's just not explosive. Once he gets he makes the right read, he's just a big dude. He's a bulldozer. He's not a thoroughbred. How do you feel about what Stephen A. said about Florida State? I don't know what he said. I have no idea. No clue. I'm sure somebody will notify me. I honestly have no clue. I don't really care much for ESPN, so I don't watch it much. Norvell always responds to adversity. He will bounce back, and I almost guarantee 10 wins next year. Insane mob. I mean, it's possible, but again, it just depends on the quarterback. You're not telling me Florida State's winning 10 games, losing a gazillion seniors, and then you're trotting out Tate Rodemaker. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. You got to prove me wrong. I think next year's a rebuilding. Anything brewing that could end up shocking the transfers we were coming, not looking for specifics, but more like worrying signs. It's too early, man. That's Benjamin. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Touche. I'm not sure, but it's day 3. This is the feeling out process. Until we get through this coming weekend trends with the portal, the only thing is a bunch of people jumping in it. That's about all I can grab for you out of that. FSU got all 3 pro players that can opt out, but the experts swear we can't compete with Alabama and Georgia. I mean, I think Florida State is one of the more unique teams in college football. Anybody that says they can't compete with Alabama or Georgia is just saying that. That's number one, it's ridiculous. But number 2, Florida State has a very good system, and this is why a coach being around for a while matters. Even some of the portal guys, Jordan Travis in particular, he transferred from Louisville to Florida State. They know the system. Yeah, you throw in Keon, he can play in whatever system. Outside of like the wing T, he's going to be effective anywhere. But Florida State had one guy go down, another guy come in. Like the O-line was banged up all year. They didn't do great, but they managed. That's why they were good. And it's credit to the entire staff for getting ready, too. Dion would be in this situation if he was head coach for the views. Dion is Dion. Next year's schedule, much more difficult. I agree, 7-5, 8-4, unless we get a quarterback. That's Ty Fox. Yeah, I mean, they've got you got to go to Miami. You got to go to Notre Dame. I haven't looked at the whole slate here lately. I forget what but it's just harder. Florida comes to Tallahassee, but I mean, I don't know if it really matters. They're just not very good, but it's still a very difficult schedule next year. What is the latest on our one safety? Oh, you're talking about Bolden? I'm starting to feel Auburn here for KJ, especially if there's issues with the NIL. And again, I don't have any way to verify that. That'll be one of those on the back end, 6 months after signing day, we learned something. He just had a meeting with KJ had a meeting with Hugh Freeze. I don't know if he's taking more trips, and I don't know when Norvell's in-home is. That stuff's always fluid anyway, so keep that in mind. Corey Hall, what is going to be the confirmative credentials to get into the playoff next year? Because if you don't come with the concrete credentials, you will have 11 SEC teams in the playoffs. I don't know what it's going to be, man. I haven't read up on any of that stuff. To be honest, I don't follow the bylines that much. I am not that guy. R.A. Nixon, don't bring in a quarterback. It's time to develop one before it starts to run other quarterback recruits off. Well, which ones are you running off? That's the question. Here's the thing. Quarterbacks are going to leave no matter what. Let's say they didn't take a quarterback next year or this year, just hypothetically. I would bet 50-50 with anybody, if not higher, give you 2-to-1 odds, that at least one quarterback's going to leave. A.J. Duffy's already in the portal, but at least Rodemaker or Glenn, whichever one didn't win it, would leave. Kids are not going to wait. They're not going to wait. It is what it is. You just got to recruit a great quarterback every year, and if somebody leaves, they leave. If you get a portal guy. That's just where I'm at. All right. Hummus Hero, what a name. FSU got done dirty by the Disney SEC hype machine. Insane mob. That schedule for next year is not that hard. 10 wins. This team is not just quarterback driven. I'm not saying that it's a good team, but if you don't have quarterback play, like they had quarterback play even remotely like they did the last couple games, they're a 7-5, 8-4 football team. I am 100% convinced of that. How does NIL work? Player contacts TBE with a dollar amount, blah, blah, blah. It depends. There's a lot of variables even to this, and this is from Scott Gaddy. A lot of the collectives are connected to the school in some way, shape, or form, but they don't work with the school. It is the ultimate gray area. Every single one of them is different. And that's why I don't want to go into that further, because it literally is different at every school. Dion would have us 4-8. I don't think Dion's a very good head coach yet. He's trying, but we'll have to see if he can get there. It would be great if the players that could come back would come back, keeping my fingers crossed. That's Tori Sims. Yeah, that's all you can do, man. You don't know. It's too early in the portal season to know yet. I see Payton on. Yeah, I mean, he deleted his tweet. This is J-Mac. Look, I don't know if he's going in or out. That's what I started with when I first put up this podcast to be a live stream. He didn't have the post at whatever, but it changes. Like right after I set the live stream, of course, Patrick Payton deleted his tweet. Whatever. What do you think about Florida State leaving the ACC for the SEC or Big Ten? That's Olmec Supreme. Well, that's their preference, but it's not a matter of if they want to. It's still the grant of rights. This is just all legal stuff. The grant of rights doesn't conclude until 2036, not 26. A big 3-6. Prove me wrong, but that's going to be really hard. So, Wildcat. Benjamin. Yeah, I don't know about all the Wildcat. Let me talk about something else here real quick before I go to the other side. Here's something to think about. Florida State is in day 3 like everybody else. If they can get any kind of positive momentum, a commitment, a transfer portal guy, whatever, to get some momentum, one really good player, especially like a big quarterback or whatever, that can shift it with Patrick Payton, with somebody else, and somebody in the battle's end could also make a major donation, and this changes overnight. This is as fluid as it freaking gets. And to be honest with you, I don't know if there's much you can do about that. It's just wild, man. It really is. And I don't think that's going to change much. But something that you should definitely check out is FanDuel. FanDuel. All right. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That is correct. You heard that right. That's a $150 if your team wins on a money line bet. If you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is also very easy to use. That is also very true. There's a wide range of betting options, including, but not limited to, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. Once again, the portal is fluid because the rules they haven't done a good job. And 2, every school has a different NIL collective that is or isn't connected directly to the school, or some booster. I mean, a former quarterback or offensive lineman heads it up. It's different everywhere. Maybe it's a Warrior at some schools. So how this stuff operates, I'm warning just like everybody else. It is complex, to say the least. All right, what do we got here? Would potential new conferences be willing to help cover GOR costs? What is that's, to be honest, that topic's been brought up a lot. I don't think a lot. I really don't, because why would we give up money for somebody that's going to come in and compete and try to beat us? Because the schools that are trying to go are Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina. Those are 4 good programs that can recruit at a high level. I don't think, to be honest, the coaches themselves and a lot of people in the programs in the SEC probably don't want this. It's the ADs. They just want the money because they get paid for guaranteed because they got bigger TV contracts. There's going to be a lot of infighting with this. It's a good question, Scott, but to be honest, Scott Gaddy, that's going to be very complex as well. Infighting will happen a lot. Benjamin, when usually would you worry about coaches getting poached? What's your guess for the next assistant to get ahead? Ooh, great question. If Florida State doesn't lose an assistant coach in the offseason, something's wrong. And here's what I mean by that. I don't care what era you talk about. A buddy of mine used to be an expert with this stuff, and I learned directly from him. You're going to lose one pretty much every year regardless, and usually 2 or 3 because the money's gotten so crazy from assistant to coordinator spot. Like $1 million for a coordinator is pretty common. Gotta go. Quarterback coach obviously is good. I've always thought Odell would go somewhere, but he's going to be a lifer for Florida State. There's certain guys like that, but I don't know which one because they all have different aspirations, and it depends on a lot of times where's my kid at in school. Literally, like I've had conversations with people like that. That's a big deal. I know there's certain coaches that didn't want to be in California because they didn't like the culture, or they didn't like the South, so they didn't like the culture. So they would pass on jobs wherever it was. It just fit them. Also a very interesting question, though, but Florida State will lose somebody. It's inevitable. Insane mob. But unless the coaches like Fuller or Norvell hits the portal, I'm still saying 10 wins. Could be. Tori Sims, you think we may lose a coach or two? Absolutely. Every team pretty much does. That's the norm. To think that we won't see that we're pretty much any major power out of the top 20 schools in the country, there might be 1, maybe 2 that doesn't lose a coach. It's just par for the course in today's era. Payton is an okay 5 tech. He got through a lot because of slide protection and chipping, blah, blah, blah. He needs to put on weight and develop. He won't be paying kids. Yeah. Corey Hall. Look, Payton is an edge rusher that still needs to get stronger if he's going to play in the NFL. If he was ready for the NFL, there wouldn't be any discussion about NIL. He'd just go. So Corey Hall's right. He needs to get bigger, needs to get stronger, and get a little bit better. He's still good, but he's not elite. I'm not worried. FSU has been superb with the portal. We might lose some, but I'm sure we will win some. Post of the day, Show Enough DJ. 1,000,000%, brother. Star for you. That is fact. Who wouldn't want to play for Florida State? Well, a lot of guys, apparently. I mean, they lose more recruits than they gain, just like everybody else. But right now, it's kind of hard not to argue they're attractive. That's the number one thing. Are you attractive to kids that maybe 2 years ago would have been like Florida State, meh? But now, after a 10-3 season and a 13-0 season and going to a big bowl, you're going to open more doors, 100%. I seen Locked On Big 12. They said they'll love to have FSU. Yeah, well, the Big 12 is not getting 0 chance that's going to happen. Big 12 about to tank. I don't know if it's going to tank, but they still have a lot of TV contracts. And you got to remember, where's their TV primarily at? Oklahoma, Texas, that area. Oil money. They'll be just fine. There is no tank. There is no tank. Look, it's about the people consuming. They can sell advertising at a higher rate there because of the oil money. Period. Let's see. Showing up, DJ. It's a dying conference in some ways, but that's not how contracts work with TV money, though. I'm telling you, that's not an opinion either. It matters who's in the conference, the oil money and all that. It's a little easier for them to sell advertising than you think. As long as we don't lose Atkins, well, that would be a good thing. That's what Torrey says. Any $5+ million NIL deals getting floated in the country this year, portal or high school. That's from Benjamin. If there's a $5 million deal, I sure as heck don't know about it, and that would be ridiculous. There's nobody worth $5 million. Sorry, bro. There's nobody worth $5 million. But anyway, that's to that point. That's a pretty ridiculous total. It is what it is, but that's pretty high. Like Cam Ward's going to be the highest paid player in the portal. I'm pretty sure. But even if he is, he ain't getting $5 million. I can't imagine. The only way I guess it's possible. We'll talk about that here in just 1 second, though. First off, speaking of spending, if you're going to get something taken care of for you, and you're going to go out of your way to make it happen for the holiday season, trying to hire for your business, your small business, LinkedIn Jobs. If you have not checked them out, please do so now. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Check them out because, like, even if you're a small business, retail, holiday help is very important. They've got screening tools that fit what you want, that gets you the right people in front of you for interviews. So call to action here. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, here's the deal. I'll get to more comments here in just one second. Over the next week, I said this early for those of you that just came in, we're going to see a whole bunch of kids commit, even maybe a few quarterbacks, just kind of rehashing. Patrick Payton aside for a second, you're going to see some trends. Once some of the top guys make announcements in any position, there's a few I know about. I'm just waiting for them to pop around the country. But there's going to be a few surprises too, like Brock Vandegrift, a kid I used to know when he was in high school. He just transferred from Georgia. He's going to Kentucky. Good for Brock. Go get him, brother. But at the same time, not everybody is really all that surprisingly going to make any predictions on it because the portal is so wild right now. Everybody I talk to is just like, dude, I don't know what's going on. I haven't talked to one person that feels comfortable with how fast this is moving. Not one. So keep that in mind. Also, and this is very, very, very important, it only takes one guy to kind of change your team. Think about Keon this year. It's not the number of guys you get. It's the talent that you get. And of course, fit and all that. But you got to rely on the coaches at some point. So let's please keep that in mind. So, all right, I don't know where I was. Let's see. Big Ten for Florida State and Clemson, according to Surge OG. Man, maybe. I mean, it depends on the money, and if they're willing to help them get out of the grant rights, it could be. I was watching Florida State show earlier that said it's a lot of situations right now because it's talent trying to get to Tallahassee, real good talent. So it's going to be some big decisions coming. That's K-Jack the Great. Well, I mean, it depends on how much money they want to spend on NIL. Do they want to spend more on the players in the portal? You want to mix it up between top, like KJ Bolden or something, and it's coming in high school? And those are great questions. I don't know the answer to that. Again, that's all internal. That'll come out afterwards, but it's pretty common to see that kind of situation unfold. Olmec Supreme, do you think we will see a Power 4 20-plus team? Probably. Could be the SEC or Big Ten, and probably. It'd be kind of unrealistic to think that it's not going to happen at this point. Just a matter of when, not really if. Insane Mob, what will Florida State do to the country? Back when Florida State was a coach, it was love. Once he left, it's like the narrative changed, and now it's Florida State ain't good enough. What happened? I don't know. Times have just changed in general. I mean, a lot of people liked Bowden, for one. I think that's part of it, but it's money. Marvin Morris, you got to do what's good to keep a kid like Pat Payton. He has unlimited talent. There's truth in that, but again, there's got to be a limit. There still has to be a dollar amount where it's no. And I don't know what that is because they're the ones that know how much money the Battle's End has, not Brian Smith. I'm not here to even remotely guess. Corey Hall, insane. They ain't love us. And Bobby, we used to be road warriors and go into their stadiums and kick butt. And we were winning, but ESPN been against us since 2014. Interesting. Gary Roach, do you think some of these portal guys are just testing for money and will stay, work out NIL? There could be some bluffing because that happens in the NFL. This is from Gary Roach. Gary brings up a really good question. When I read it again, do you think some of these portal guys are just testing the market for money and they will stay, work out an NIL deal? It's possible. I mean, it's still a contract. You have to give and take. I would imagine more will stay than leave because, as noted, they've been winning. A little easier to promote when you've got a program that's doing the right thing on the win-loss record, this situation. Fisk going to the portal. Isn't Fisk done? I thought he was in his last year of eligibility. That's from Benjamin. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Fisk is done. Brock's dad coached me in high school in Baton Rouge. Oh, but dang. Show enough DJ. Hypnotimus. All right. Quality over quantity, 1,000,000%. Florida State needs that, definitely. Carolyn Roan. This is Christopher Lee Miller. What's up, Florida State Seminole fans? Go Noles. Insane Mob. If KJ goes to Auburn, good luck to him, but Florida State is going to be all right. It'd be easier with KJ, though. Insane Mob at Corey Hall. They hated back when Bobby coached, but they never said we weren't good enough now. Let's see. Yeah, Fisk is done. KJ, yeah, I thought he was. He was good, man. He played really well that Louisville game, too. Let's see. Hypnoti, I think he means players like Fisk. I mean, I don't know if there's a D tackle in the portal like Fisk other than the obvious, a certain young man from Texas A&M. I have no idea where he's going, but I would assume it's going to be Tennessee, Georgia, or Bama. He's from Tennessee, and those are the other schools kind of involved, maybe Oregon or LSU. But, yeah, I wouldn't put a lot of stock. Let me see something here real quick. What is the latest top person in the portal? I'm pretty sure it's going to be Walter Nolan, and it still is. Walter Nolan, Cam Ward, those are the top two guys as the way it's listed. So a kid you might hear some news about is Trey Moore, an edge out of University of Texas San Antonio. He's rated really high. I don't know anything about him, but that's why it's so unique, man. Sometimes guys get bypassed and end up being really good. You just don't know. So we'll see. What else we got here? K-Jack, how do you feel about Grayson McCall? I think he's really good. He's only thrown a handful of picks in like 5 years. The guy's very careful with the ball. Florida State would do pretty well to get him, to be honest, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. If you can get a guy for a year and somehow kept at least one of the two younger quarterbacks, plus you got Chromahawk coming in, you would have a bridge gap year. I think you'd win 8 or more games with McCall. Might even win 10 or more. You know, Pitt, who else they get? There's a lot of ifs there, but he would give you a chance in every game. Valuable quarterback. He's a guy I think that could do pretty well. Daquan Finn, I have no idea what's going on with him. I saw he's in the portal. For those of you who don't know, he's a pretty good player, but he was at Toledo. Hard to project those kind of guys. He's a quarterback. He can run pass. I don't know. It's so difficult to pick. Does a kid like that end up playing well at the Power 5 level? You're guessing. And I don't know the young man at all. Would know him from Adam if he walked up to me right now. So it's a good question, though. Hypnotic, I believe that Florida State would do well to get somebody like that, but it's not a lock. To rehash here real quick, Patrick Payton had a post up about going to the portal, blah, blah, blah. He's taken it down. There's been discussion about whether that was NIL related. Everybody seems to think it is. Even a number around $1 million has been floated. How accurate is that? I don't know. That's what the crux of this conversation is. But I also wanted to bring up another point that I brought up very early in the show and bring it back up. These kinds of things are setting a trend here. Every team has to be ready, from AD, head coach, assistant trainers, everybody. You have X amount of money, roster, NIL, recruits, whatever the total is. How are you going to allocate it? And whether you want to hear it or not, there's going to be a snafu every single year, probably multiple, because somebody you think is worth X, they think they're worth double. And it's a player, maybe he's not great, but you're thin at that spot. Do you overpay or you risk it in the portal? These kind of questions will change your roster, man, and they'll change your win-loss record. Excuse me. Any idea how much it costs an NIL in a year to pay for player? No idea. I have no idea. Sometimes it's boosters that have like their own mortgage company. Sometimes it's a big box company like Reebok and Under Armour and Nike and stuff. They give these kids things. Beats by Dre does a lot of stuff with these kids. Sometimes they have connections with them, and every school is a little different. Sometimes kids get their own shoe or like their own slide, something like that. It's pretty wild. But every school does it a little different. Like the NFL, here's the salary cap. Everything's the same. Not that way in college. They didn't do a very good job setting this up. I like Grayson McCall. That's what Mickey Mason says. I do too. He's a good quarterback. Corey Hall, insane. They just had to put an SEC with its money, Disney, ESPN, ACC product too, but it's trash. SEC is the cash cow. If Georgia had won, FSU would have been in. It's wild, man. It is wild. But what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? All right. I have to get to another podcast that I have been summoned to for a kid's commitment. Before I leave, I do want to make one more comment, and that's that we're just getting on the cusp of this. Remember, this is day 3 of the portal. There will be more Patrick Payton stuff. There will be something about a quarterback, probably by Sunday, that Florida State's doing this or that, or somebody's visiting. There'll be a new name at a key position, maybe a corner. All this stuff will be random. It's not like recruiting where in weeks in advance we know the visit schedule. It's not the same. I'm not out on the recruiting trail at a 7-on-7 event getting all this. I don't get to talk to these kids. They just announce something on social media. It's wild. So we don't have a chance a lot of times to know when kids even get in the portal. Sometimes the coaches at the school don't, FSU included. It's random. Patrick Payton today. So keep that in mind. K-Jack, the kid Oben from Duke is taking a visit next weekend. He's pretty darn good, yeah. I've seen Oben play several times. KJ, he's really good. I think he needs to be a little more physical against the run. He's a better pass rusher. I think Riley Leonard's going to go to Notre Dame. That might be hard to beat them if he goes up there, and they need DNs too. But Florida State's got a spot to sell because obviously a certain guy by the name of Jared Verse is going to the NFL. So we'll see. Don't call it a playoffs. It's an invitational like the Maui Classic. I think Patrick Payton just wants to leave FSU because that's outrageous, but we will take him. Oh, yeah, right. Young Bucks, whatever, buddy. That's hilarious. All right. Well, anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Everybody be safe. I will talk to you very soon. I'm not sure what tomorrow's show is going to be about, but Lord only knows with everything that's going on. It could be about just about anything because it seems like every time I open up social media, it's something different. It's just been wild. I don't expect tomorrow to be any different. But anyway, everybody be good. I will talk to you all very soon.